Disney has dropped a bombshell by announcing another Rey Skywalker movie, and fans are furious. But it's not just about Rey. Kathleen Kennedy boldly declares they're moving away from George Lucas's original vision. The foundation of Star Wars is being tossed aside for a unique spin. But why? Why is Disney doubling down on decisions that have alienated fans for years? How does this reflect the deeper issues plaguing the franchise? Stick with us as we explore why Star Wars feels further from its roots than ever before. The announcement has sent shockwaves through the fan base, and it's easy to see why. The disappointment with the sequel trilogy, especially Daisy Ridley's portrayal of Rey, has been well documented. Many felt these films missed the essence of what made Star Wars iconic. Fans voiced their concerns over Rey's character and the direction of the story, yet Disney and Kathleen Kennedy seem determined to ignore this feedback, pushing forward with a Rey-centric movie. It feels like a blatant dismissal of their concerns, and the outrage is undeniable. What's even more frustrating is the announcement that this new movie will move Star Wars further from George Lucas' original vision. Kathleen Kennedy has openly stated that it will be a unique take, drawing more from Disney and Lucasfilm's ideas than from the foundational creativity of George Lucas himself. This has left fans bewildered and frankly insulted. After all, George Lucas is the reason Star Wars exists as the monumental franchise it is today. His vision and storytelling crafted one of the most beloved universes in cinematic history. To now claim that the franchise can thrive without his influence feels audacious and dismissive of what made Star Wars iconic in the first place. To make matters worse, this announcement comes at a time when fans are already disillusioned by Disney's previous choices. The decision to center not just one but 3 upcoming films around Rey, a character many feel represents the franchise's recent missteps, feels like rubbing salt in an open wound. It's clear that Disney is doubling down on its vision, even at the expense of alienating longtime supporters of the galaxy far, far away. It's almost comical to hear Kathleen Kennedy openly admit that Disney is moving away from George Lucas' vision for Star Wars. The truth is that shift happened over a decade ago when Disney acquired the franchise in 2012. From the moment they took the reins, it was clear that Lucas' creative direction wasn't going to be part of their strategy. This was painfully obvious when the sequel trilogy was rolled out, starting with The Force Awakens and culminating in The Rise of Skywalker. These films bore little resemblance to the rich, nuanced storytelling George Lucas had built, and it's hard to imagine him ever approving the path they took for the franchise he created. Now, Kathleen Kennedy is doubling down, framing this as a bold and unique direction for Star Wars, but fans are understandably skeptical. Many expect this new approach to lean into the same overly political themes and storytelling pitfalls that have alienated audiences over the past decade. Rey Skywalker, often criticized as the epitome of the Mary Sue trope, has become a symbol of these missteps, a character designed to appeal to broad ideals but lacking the depth that made earlier Star Wars heroes so compelling. What's baffling is Disney's complete inability or unwillingness to learn from the past. Over the last 10 years, whether it's been with Star Wars, the MCU, or countless spin-offs, the fan reception has been overwhelmingly negative. Time and again, fans have voiced their dissatisfaction, not just on social media platforms like YouTube and Twitter, but also where it hurts Disney the most, their wallets. Projects that stray from the core appeal of these beloved franchises have consistently underperformed at the box office and received tepid critical acclaim. Despite this, Disney continues to forge ahead as though the fan backlash doesn't exist. Fans made it abundantly clear that they didn't want Rey to return, and they've been vocal about it for years. Yet Disney and Lucasfilm seem intent on ignoring this sentiment. They've seen the online criticism, the YouTube videos, the discussions on forums. There's no way they could have missed it. And beyond the chatter, the financial results speak for themselves. The declining revenue from these projects shows that the audience simply isn't buying into what Disney is selling. But here we are with yet another trilogy centered around a character that failed to resonate with the fanbase in the first place. Disney's refusal to address these glaring issues has left fans feeling more disconnected from the franchise than ever before. It really makes you wonder why Disney is even bothering to continue down this path. After all, if they've seen that these movies are underperforming both financially and critically, why would they think they can pull off an entire trilogy centered around a character that fans didn't want in the first place? Even more perplexing is their decision to take Star Wars in a completely new direction when what fans have been begging for is a return to the franchise's roots. The overwhelming request has been simple: stop trying to reinvent the wheel and go back to what made Star Wars so beloved in the first place, the original culture, the established lore, and the spirit that George Lucas infused into the universe. Yet Disney has ignored this, and instead of course correcting, they're doubling down on a direction that further distances the franchise from its origins. This decision only amplifies the disconnect between Disney and its audience. Fans have been loud and clear in voicing their discontent, not just in the online world, but also through their lack of financial support for the new films. Disney has no excuse for not hearing the complaints, yet they persist in pursuing a course that fans have repeatedly told them to avoid, and that's deeply frustrating. At the core of this problem is Kathleen Kennedy, who holds the title of president at Lucasfilm, a company that carries the name of the very man who created Star Wars, George Lucas. The irony here is palpable. How can they claim to be the stewards of Star Wars while simultaneously drifting so far away from the vision that made it iconic? It's almost as though Disney believes they can take Lucas' creation and reshape it in their own image, regardless of the massive fan base that made the franchise a cultural phenomenon. This level of arrogance is hard to ignore. It's no secret that George Lucas wasn't happy with the direction the sequels took. He's made his feelings clear, just like Steven Spielberg voiced his own disappointment with the handling of Indiana Jones. And yet, despite these high-profile creators expressing their displeasure, Lucasfilm continues to churn out projects they think will generate profit and garner social political approval. The reality is, they're failing on both fronts. Not only are the films being rejected by audiences on both sides of the political spectrum, but industry insiders are also beginning to speak out, calling these films absurd and poorly executed. It's become clear that Disney and Lucasfilm's approach isn't working. Instead of celebrating the core of Star Wars and respecting its legacy, they've turned it into a vehicle for experimentation that alienates fans and drives the franchise further away from what made it great. What's truly laughable is Kathleen Kennedy's recent claim that she's recognized her past mistakes. She admitted she went wrong with Solo, a Star Wars story, by trying to take the franchise in a new direction, and promised to steer things in the right direction with Indiana Jones and Lucasfilm's future projects. But immediately after making these statements, Lucasfilm announces yet another shift away from George Lucas's original vision for Star Wars. This, of course, is one of the biggest missteps they made a decade ago when they first bought the franchise, and yet here they are again making the same mistake. Clearly, Kathleen Kennedy hasn't learned a thing. Her recent comments were likely just an attempt to appease the frustrated fanbase, but actions speak louder than words. By announcing that the next 3 Star Wars films will continue to ignore Lucas's vision, she's essentially confirmed that she hasn't grasped the core mistake that has plagued the Star Wars franchise since Disney took over. This is the mistake that has led to critical and financial failures, alienated fans, and damaged the legacy of one of the most beloved franchises in history. If Disney and Lucasfilm really understood where they went wrong, they wouldn't be making this announcement. The truth is, they haven't recognized their own failures, and now they're setting themselves up for more of the same. By doubling down on their approach and pushing forward with these films that stray even further from Lucas's vision, they're guaranteeing that the franchise will continue its downward spiral. Fans don't want more of what they've already rejected, and yet Disney insists on pushing out these projects that no one asked for. We're looking at another 4 to 6 years of Star Wars content that the majority of the fan base doesn't want, which means that by the time Disney and Lucasfilm finally realize the mistakes they've made, it will be too late. They'll need even more time to course correct, making it a never-ending cycle of failure and disappointment for both the company and the fans. The situation is growing increasingly frustrating because it's clear that Disney and Lucasfilm have the resources, the legacy, and the talent to do something amazing with Star Wars, but they're completely missing the mark by refusing to listen to what fans actually want. By the time Disney and Lucasfilm realize their mistakes, it may already be too late. Fans already losing interest will have moved on to other projects and studios that cater to their tastes. The frustration is palpable because the most recent Star Wars and Disney projects seem to be everything the fans don't want. This disconnection between the creators and the audience is not only damaging, but frankly disrespectful. After all, the success of Star Wars, and by extension, Lucasfilm and Disney, is built on fans who were passionate about the movies. These fans spent their hard-earned money to support the franchise, and now instead of being listened to, they're being ignored. What makes this even worse is the way Disney has responded to criticism. Instead of engaging with fans or addressing their concerns, they've brushed them off and proceeded to push out movies that only further alienate the audience. This is an ongoing issue that has yet to be addressed, and it's likely to have long-lasting effects on the future of Star Wars, but it's not too late to change things around. If Disney and Lucasfilm choose to listen to their fans and course correct, there's still a chance to restore the franchise's legacy. However, they'll need to abandon the current course and make a radical shift in their approach to Star Wars content. So what do you think, fans? Do you believe there's still hope for Star Wars, or has Disney already lost its way? Let us know in the comments below.